Look, I already know that I have expressed my own personal opinion on this topic, which definitely got some mixed reception, to say the least. But in the 3 weeks that have passed since uploading that video, a lot has happened, and I kind of want to briefly just go over everything that has happened since I put out that video, and my current thoughts about how the console lineup is looking for this holiday season, and if Microsoft truly picked up the pace enough to compete with Sony in the current console market. Now look, I'm going to be a little bit honest here with you. I really wished I had uploaded that video like a day or two later, because as soon as I criticized Microsoft for their rather lackluster presentation of the upcoming console and its exclusives, Xbox dropped a bomb on us absolutely out of nowhere with the Xbox Series X. And I gotta say, I was definitely caught off guard by this announcement for a multitude of reasons. For one, releasing a console that was similar in hardware and specs that was significantly cheaper than the Series X at the same time seemed like an odd business move at first, but I gotta give them some props here. So, on one hand, you have the Xbox Series X, which is now very clearly a console that is meant for the more hardcore Xbox fan base that is much more powerful than the previous iteration. Basically an option for people who take gaming much more seriously than the average consumer probably would. But now Microsoft has given them an extra option with the Xbox Series S, with a very enticing price point at a mere $300, which at the time was crazy considering how powerful the consoles were becoming, not to mention being smaller and more compact than the Series X. So now it seems like at this point a lot of people were beginning to take Microsoft much more seriously in terms of being a competitor in the current generation of the console wars, some people even claiming that the Series S was the smoking gun that they needed to compete against the PS5, and honestly, I kind of agree. While I still wasn't sold due to the unfortunate fact that a lot of the Xbox exclusives are going to be on PC, I wouldn't really need one, but I can see this console as a good alternative for people who don't have good PCs to play games on and want a cheap way to play some good games. Not to mention the Xbox Game Pass, which honestly I think is a pretty decent deal for people who want to play a really good library of games for a decent price in the form of a subscription. Again, I probably won't be getting any of the new Xbox consoles for a good while, but I will admit that they made a pretty damn smart business move showing off the Series S before Sony announced the price of the PS5, which probably could have potentially swayed some customers into getting the Series S over the PS5 if you probably weren't already planning on buying both. I gotta say, I was genuinely surprised when they announced the prices would be $400 and $500 respectively, although at the same time I kinda had a feeling they wouldn't overprice the PS5. I think Sony learned their lesson after the launch of the PS3, but whether or not you like fridges or Wi-Fi routers or toasters, I think most people can agree that Sony just really hasn't missed for the past few years and have been unapologetically dominating the console space, with Nintendo trailing behind in second, or, at least in my opinion. I think the price point for the PS5 is balanced to the point where it doesn't feel too expensive, while also being expensive enough to feel like a higher profile console than the generation previous. It's slightly disappointing that the standard for game prices is going to increase by $10. I'm sure there's a lot of PlayStation owners whose financial situation is probably more fickle than they'd like, and only have the extra money to be buying a $60 game rather than a $70 one. But I also understand that games are more expensive to make nowadays, so you kind of have to make that exception. So, following the presentation, Sony did the unthinkable and let out the pre-orders, and my god, was it a fucking mess. They sold out almost instantly, with people buying multiple consoles, then proceeding to scalp them online for a much higher price due to the insane lack of availability online. Hey, remember when I said this? It almost feels like the big dog status that Uncharted had was passed down to two titles, Spider-Man and God of War, and I think Sony has taken notice.
The time draws near. Prepare yourself.
Sony has essentially pulled their smoking gun and just so happened to be proving me right in my assessment of God of War and Spider-Man clearly being at the top of the priorities list when it comes to the exclusives for Sony. But man, I'd be lying if I didn't say that list of exclusives just keeps getting better and better with each showcase, and the light from Microsoft as a competitor has just begun to dwindle. And now it seems like the door for this console wars was about to be closed. However, Microsoft didn't want to go down without a fight, and they had one more ace up their sleeve. They announced that they signed a multi-billion-dollar deal with Bethesda for their games to be exclusively on Xbox consoles. Kinda. See, the details of this deal are still in the air because we don't know if specific IPs will be exclusive to Xbox consoles, and their more popular IPs like Elder Scrolls, Doom, Fallout, etc. will remain multi-platform. We're not sure as the recording of this video, and for example, the game Deathloop is still a PS5 exclusive, and Bethesda claimed that all their exclusives that they've already announced for the PS5 will still be remaining exclusive to the PS5. But all things considered, this deal can be a big game changer for Microsoft if they play their cards right, because anyone who has kept up with Microsoft knows that they have a history of buying out promising game studios and really not doing much with them after the purchase of said studios. Rareware, Obsidian Entertainment, Ninja Theory, and 343 Industries, just to name a few. But I'm cautiously optimistic that Microsoft have learned their lesson and are willing to let these studios make the games they want to make while supporting them in any way they need so they can consistently come out with more high quality games that have more of an identity rather than 10 more bland survival and third-person shooter games that most people oftentimes just don't really care about. Despite these efforts though, it seems like Sony has the upper hand when it comes to public perception, as their console sold out almost immediately, while the Series S is still up for pre-orders, again as the recording of this video, but the Series X is still currently sold out, so it's definitely looking a lot more promising for Microsoft for the foreseeable future. But I'm still putting my money on the PS5 since personally I care a lot more about the exclusives, and all of Microsoft's exclusives will be on PC anyways, so I won't really need to spend the extra money, but I think I can confidently say that Microsoft has definitely turned up the heat in the past few weeks. So yeah, anyways, that's all we have to say for now. If you enjoyed the video, like it, tell me what you think, hit that subscribe button if you want to see more, yeah, do all that jazz, and play the music.